Hey guys, this is Sam, and this is an exclusive look at a $230 3D printed iPhone 8, and I want to compare this to the Samsung Galaxy S8, and of course the current iPhone 7 for good measure. My model was shipped to me straight from China based off of the latest schematics. Of course, if you want to see more on the iPhone 8, hit subscribe down below, but let's jump into it. The first thing that I wanted to check out was the backs of these devices. So on my very left is the Samsung Galaxy S8, in the middle is the future iPhone 8, and on the very right is the current iPhone 7. Now, two of these devices just feature a single camera, and the way the cutout currently looks on the iPhone 8, you might be thinking, is there really going to be 3 cameras on this? That's probably not going to be the case, but instead we will see a vertical dual camera design. This has been rumored time and time again. We've heard it over and over again, and if dual cameras like this don't come to the iPhone 8, then I don't know what will, because this has been one of those things that just keeps resurfacing. Another big part of the iPhone 8 story is the story of the fingerprint sensor, and as you can tell right now, Samsung and Apple have both taken different approaches. On the Samsung Galaxy S8, right next to the camera, there is the fingerprint sensor, because with Samsung's Galaxy S8 and the bezel-less design, there was just no room for a full fingerprint sensor on the front. For the iPhone 7, which just features a regular design with a normal square screen that doesn't really bleed that far into the edges, you get a normal fingerprint sensor on the bottom of the phone. But with that being said, you get these pretty fat bezels on the top and bottom. Well, if you take a look at the back of this iPhone 8, it does not look like Touch ID will be going there. So let's flip it around and take a look at the front of these devices. This is the front of the iPhone 8. It's really interesting. The screen is going to be absolutely massive. We're hearing a 5.8-inch OLED display, and I can't imagine how bright and how vibrant that's going to look when there's an actual screen on this thing. But with that being said, there comes one big caveat. The iPhone 8 is going to be the first iPhone ever to not have a physical home button, and for iPhone users, that's a big deal because we've never seen that before. Android users have probably become accustomed to software buttons and non-physical home buttons in recent years, like the Samsung Galaxy S8. When you get to these huge phones with practically no bezels, there's just no room left for physical buttons on the front of the device. If this is the route that Apple decides to take, it's definitely going to be an adjustment, but at the same time, you're losing that physical home button in exchange for a massive screen. If you take a look at the top of the iPhone 8, there are 4 camera cutouts in addition to a speaker. Obviously, this is a phone and there has to be a speaker somewhere on the front, just so when you do receive that bi-monthly phone call, you can go ahead and answer it. But the 4 camera cutouts are the big story here, because we keep hearing more about better front-facing cameras in addition to retina scanning. I can come up with uses for 3 of these 4 camera cutouts. Somewhere we'll see a FaceTime HD camera, somewhere else we'll see an ambient light sensor, but the last 2 is where it gets a little bit sketchy. One of these is probably going to be taken up by an iris scanner or face scanning, but maybe the 2 cameras, like a face scanner and an iris scanner, would work in conjunction to possibly construct a 3D version of your face. It's not something that we know a whole lot about, but it's really interesting that we see 4 camera cutouts, because that's many more than we've seen on any iPhone in the past. So those are the big design changes and features coming to the back and the front of the iPhone 8, but if we take a look around the rest of the device, we can also see a few things are different. While on the left side of the iPhone 7, the mute switch and the volume rocker look completely identical to the iPhone 7, on the right side, there's a much larger lock, sleep, or power button, whatever you want to call it. It's a lot bigger this time around, and I don't know why. I felt like it was always the right size on previous versions of the iPhone, but it looks like with the iPhone 8, it just might be getting a little bit larger. The top of this iPhone 8 model looks identical to my iPhone 7 as well, but if you haven't noticed already, the iPhone 8 is in between size of the iPhone 7 and the Samsung Galaxy S8. It's slightly wider, taller, and just a little bit thicker than the iPhone 7, but it's also wider and less tall than the Galaxy S8. It's really going to fit somewhere in between those 2 phones, and in my time I've spent holding it in my hand, it feels really good. You're not going to notice that much of a difference in size between the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 7 if you've ever held one of those, and it's definitely not as tall or as uncomfortable when you try to reach the top corner of the screen like on the Galaxy S8. And finally, if we move over to the bottom of the iPhone 8, you'll notice that once again it looks pretty similar to the iPhone 7. There's not a lot of changes around the body of the iPhone 8 to differentiate it. It's more on the front and back, but here we are seeing the lightning port. For a while we were hearing that USB-C may just be making its way to the iPhone 8, but that's not going to be the case just because Apple values Lightning way too much. So overall, the iPhone 8 is shaping up to be this incredible device, and as always, I want to hear your thoughts about what you think down below. Do you like this new design, or were you hoping for something different? Either way, this iPhone 8 model gives us a really nice look at what's coming later in 2017. It's going to be this beautiful device with a 5.8-inch OLED display with upgraded cameras on the back and the front, and a design that we've never seen before on an iPhone. If you enjoyed this video, it would really help me out if you hit that like button, and also share shared this with a friend who's also interested in the iPhone 8. If you want to see more on this device, make sure you hit subscribe down below. I've been Sam, I hope all of you are doing great, and I'll talk to you later.